All right, I have 10 o'clock Pacific time. Antonio, shall we get rocking here? You ready to rock?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining our AI workshop, the rapid growth of AI in the healthcare industry. My name is Steve Taplin. I'm the CEO of Sonatafy Technology, and my colleague and team member, Antonio Tamayo, is our lead AI engineer. And we're excited to dive into this discussion, talking about AI, exploring how it's been what we've observed is going on in the healthcare industry, how AI adoption is going. And we're actually seeing a big trend out there, which was one of the reasons why we started doing this workshop, is we're seeing a lot of technology leaders, a lot of CIOs and CTOs being let go from their companies over the past 3 to 6 months. And the number one reason we're seeing is that they can't quantify their AI progress to non-technical stakeholders. And more than anything, AI used to be a buzzword. Generative AI started hitting the scenes about 24 months ago, and the game's changing moving forward, which is what we're going to talk about here. And our goal for this webinar is to equip technology leaders with strategies for achieving quick wins in AI, ensuring that you could showcase your progress and impact. So let's get started here. Once again, my name is Steve Taplin. I'm the CEO of Sonatafy Technology. We are an AI machine learning custom software development company headquartered in Scottsdale, Arizona. Myself, I have been a serial technology entrepreneur. I write for Forbes and Entrepreneur magazine. Love talking about technology, love acting as a resource to help leaders solve technology problems. I kind of have the right mix of deep technical knowledge tied with a good executive sense to often bridge the gap. My genius on the call with me is Antonio Tamayo. Antonio has a PhD in computer science and machine learning. He graduated cum laude. He has numerous doctorate publications around AI in healthcare and life sciences. Antonio is our lead AI engineer. He's also a full stack data scientist. And he's also teaches at a university focused around teaching students around AI and machine learning. So we are excited for this event. We're going to talk about AI in general. We're going to talk about how we see it specific to the healthcare and life science industry. We're going to jump into live examples down to Antonio's going to show how we coded these things, focused around solving problems that we've seen in the healthcare and life sciences space. We're going to have a Q&A session and then closing messages. And then we have a good gift for all the attendees that we'll talk about at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. So I don't know two people I can ask about what is AI and get the same answer from them. I think everybody has a different impression. If you're not technical, you could barely spell AI. For those of us who are more technical and in the technology field, I still think everybody has different definitions of it and what it can do. But the official definition of AI, it's the simulation of human intelligence in machines, where the machines can learn. At the simplest, highest level, that's what it is. And large language model LLMs have been gaining popularity. It's a buzzword within the technical community. And some are under the misconception that AI, LLMs, large language models, are AI. Well, they're not. They're a significant part of it. That's where your data is sitting that you're teaching the machines to learn off of. But there's many other facets of AI. And we like to joke. Sometimes AI is very sexy. And sometimes it's really just meant to help with things that aren't so sexy, but are time consuming. I'm convinced, and I'm asked all the time, will AI replace software engineers? Well, I'm old, but not that old. But I can say with the utmost confidence that in my lifetime, it's not going to happen. AI is a great tool to help software engineers and other professionals be more productive, but that's what it's for. And I don't see it. I'm asked that question all the time. I don't see it replacing software engineers in my lifetime. But the most important thing and the biggest challenge that every company out there is having with implementing AI within their environment, it comes down to the data and how your data is organized. Most companies have data from multiple different sources. And in order to leverage AI, you have to organize your data in the right fashion. And we're going to talk about that more so that the AI models can learn from that data. But it all starts with having the right data in the right place in the right large language model so that it can be effective to train it. So we're going to talk about that more today. So there's kind of at a high level, there's two aspects of AI, often referred to as narrow AI and general AI. And narrow AI is like virtual assistants, like Siri, like Alexa, like basic diagnostic tools. Narrow AI is very good for performing certain tasks, but it's narrow AI is not where the learning's coming from. That's from general AI. Right now, narrow AI is widely used throughout the industry, but general AI is the buzz of where you're organizing your data and you're giving that data and your models the capability to understand, learn, and apply knowledge similar to human intelligence with that data. Um, Now, with general AI, this is something that we're just scratching the surface on in the industry, and it hasn't been fully achieved yet, largely because every company is out there getting their data models ready for it so that you can apply it. Many companies are using general AI at a very, very high level, trial level. But this is where the advancements in the industry are going to significantly continue, and it's exciting. Um, Narrow AI is already being used in the healthcare industry for some routine things, but general AI is where we're going to really see the revolutionary changes. And so we're going to talk about that more. So specific to AI, there's four main components of it that we like to make sure people understand when you're talking about AI. And once again, everybody has different definitions of AI out there. It's our opinion that there's four fundamental components of AI. The first is machine learning, and machine learning has been around for a long time. Machine learning is around modeling and decision making around data. Machine learning has been used for a long time, from financial forecasting to healthcare predictions. Um, and that's one component of AI. Deep learning is the next component of it, where deep learning is extending the capabilities of machine learning, and it's providing a lot more computational power. Deep learning is why everybody is building more data centers now, and why NVIDIA stock has been going through the roof, because that's where the processing and computational power is really being applied. Deep learning is meant for vast amounts of data, complex data, and is a key aspect. Neural networks are a component of deep learning that's focused around analyzing data. Next, we have natural language processing, or NLP. And NLP is essentially, think of it of helping computers understand our speech and our text. NLP is facilitating better human computer interaction and is a big part of the overall AI process. And then computer vision is just as it sounds, where AI, or it's able to analyze videos, pictures, anything visual that it can see. And these are the four main components of it. Each of these has their unique strengths and applications. And specific to the healthcare industry, really integrating these and building comprehensive AI solutions with all these components is extremely important. So next we're going to go into, and for the rest of this workshop, we're really going to dive deep into real life AI models that we have put together specific to the healthcare and life sciences industry. And I'm going to talk about it from a high level, and I'm going to show you the actual model. And then Antonio is going to dive deep into those, into how he coded those and how the steps that he went through to teach the models from the data. But one of the first models we have is rapid adverse drug events detection. And this specifically is focused around name entity recognition. And the problem of having unstructured medical text is a big challenge in the healthcare industry. And our demo focuses on taking this and providing the right output and rapid identification. If you think of a typical doctor in an office or hospital setting is often seeing 50 to 70 patients a day, and there are thousands of different drugs out there or potential interactions. And so a blog of text comes up, and although they're familiar with a lot of the drugs, they need to quickly identify the good, the bad, what they need to point out from it. And 50 to 70 patients a day means you're typically getting 5, maybe 7 minutes with each client. So this rapid detection is key. So I'm going to switch to our live demo now and show you this tool in action. And once again, and we have 5 different demos that we have built out specific to healthcare and life sciences. And these are challenges that our clients have asked us to do. And the intent of these demos is focused around showing how we could train data. But these aren't tools that are meant to be used widely throughout the industry. These are components of tools that we're implementing within different healthcare and life sciences companies unique to their environment. So this first one around rapid drug adverse drug events, it puts the data in here and then it analyzes it and immediately points out the medication and the adverse side effect from it. Normally you could say, okay, well, big deal. But once again, think of the perspective of a doctor seeing 50 to 70 patients a day and how they need to quickly get this model, quickly get their data and what they have, and be able to have these things pop up right away. And we've built this model where we have sample data that we have in here, but you can also copy and paste this data or copy and paste any drug and put it in our tool and it will come back. So it's always nice to see demos live and in action. All right, so the next one is we created a healthcare assistance tool. And this tool is leveraging generative AI. And it's around the complexity of patient data and making sure you have a precise analysis for it. And this one, we're using Llama large language models to offer doctor level insight specific for it. Once again, problem solution. And Antonio is going to go into more technical detail on how we're doing this. But now to go back to our tools and see it live, all of these tools we have are live on our website that's giving links to this. And this healthcare assistant, for a lack of a better word, it's kind of like a ChatGPT specific for medical, where it's taking data and analyzing it. And so, son has this issue, what's going on? And once again, it's taking and summarizing the data. And the key thing about this is that we've trained the models against a data set to be able to come up with these responses here. And sometimes it's trained specific to industry data. We have a lot of clients that have their own proprietary databases on how they treat things. And so we're often looking at multiple data sources there to do that. We have another one here that is around AI sequence classifications. And this is, we call it our symptoms to diagnosis tool. And once again, it's taking sequence classification with high accuracy. It's showing AI output that would specifically benefit healthcare providers. And these are just a sample of tools that we've put together that we focused on. They're all available on our website to play with. We also have a disease and symptoms detection tool. We have an abstracted clinical document summarization, which has been very interesting. We're having a situation where clients have their EMR, EHR systems that have all the patient data, but they need a summary that a non-medical professional could understand about the patient. And so our abstracted clinical document summarization tool, we probably need to think of a shorter name for that, basically will analyze the entire EMR, EHR record and come up with a non-medical level summary that a non-medical professional can understand of what's going on with the patient. So I'm very excited now to turn this over to Dr. Antonio Tamayo to now really dive into the details here around how we came to build these models. So Antonio, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Good presentation, and welcome again to this AI workshop, and welcome to this technical part. So, here we want to talk about how is AI transforming the healthcare industry. So recently and nowadays, we are experiencing a big change in the interaction that we have with technology, with the new applications. So we need to talk about large language models. Later on in this presentation, I will present details about large language models. But firstly, we need to say that with large language models, nowadays, we can answer medical questions from patients or professionals using reliable sources of information. As well, using large language models, we can generate summaries or reports from medical records. We can also use large language models as assistant for doctors or nurses, for example, with clinical decision making or documentation using natural language understanding, for example. And finally, nowadays we're using large language models to create educational materials for medical students or patients, for example. So this is an interesting topic. Large language models are part of the natural language processing, which is an area of artificial intelligence. So let me go to the next slide. Oh, wait a second. Okay, now. So, but it is important to mention here in this part of this workshop that the use of large language model has limitations. We have limitations using this modern AI technology. So we face real risks when we apply large language models in medicine. So it is mandatory to consider them when we apply it. Some of the most relevant limitations that we have using large language models, specifically in medicine, are related with the tendency to provide inaccurate responses or repeat phrases from previous interactions. And other limitation that we have is large language models can struggle to identify important information and to differentiate between reliable and unreliable sources. Also, the performance of large language models depends on the data, depends on the domain that we want to apply this technology, and not only on the amount of data, but also about the quality of the data that we use to train this type of models. So it is important to consider to take into account these limitations when we think to apply large language models in medicine. And finally, we have ethical considerations. The most relevant ethical considerations when we apply these technologies is are related with data privacy, the bias of the models, and the copyright. So we need to take into account all of this when
Antonio,
we
I
want
love
to.
it because every time we talk about an AI issue, problem, how we're going to attack it, you always have references of doctoral studies, industry case studies specific to it. I think that's in your doctoral background. Like if I ask you a question like, "Hey, I think I'm going to go get some coffee," you come back with a doctoral dissertation on the type of coffee I should have. Uh, but why is that important in the current times? As there's so many different opinions out there of AI and what it can and can't do.
Okay, that's correct. Okay, let me go to the next slide. I have a delay here. Okay, cool. So if we are talking about the limitations of the application of large language models in medicine, maybe we are wondering about, is AI in medicine just a promise or it is a reality? So, from my opinion, the answer is simple. If you are considering the AI uniquely as a chatbot, for example, so I need to say that AI is just a promise because large language models are so new and the health institutions have not adopted their widespread use in any way. But as Steve mentioned before, we have a wide range of algorithms in artificial intelligence, not only chatbots, not only language models. So if you realize that artificial intelligence is more than that, more than chatbots, so AI is a reality. For example, think of the application of machine learning to build medical diagnostic support systems. So this is an application of artificial intelligence in medicine. And we can build preliminary automatic prediction of diseases based on a structured databases or structured information. And we can apply all the knowledge that we have in natural language to build systems for medical diagnostics using also unstructured information, not only chatbots, not only large language models. We can build preliminary diagnosis from the reading of a medical image, for example. This is another interesting example of the application of artificial intelligence in the medical field. And talking about the natural language processing applications in medicine, we can talk about information extraction. So we are going to show you how to apply a part or a type of algorithm to extract drugs or medications mentions and their adverse effects from a big collection of documents, for example. And we can apply the same approach to extract diseases, treatments, procedures, and so on. And we have the application of the abstractive or extractive clinical document summarization, for example. So we have a wide range of algorithms in AI that we can apply. Well, let me go next slide. Here in this diagram, we can see that we have different applications of machine learning algorithms in healthcare. We can build systems to diagnosis and disease identifications for predictive medicine. We can improve the medical care with a personalization, for example, taking into account details for each patient. And we can enhance the administrative workflow and we can analyze images using machine learning We can use different machine learning algorithms for drug discovery and for medical documentation flow, for example. So this is a diagram to show the wide range of algorithms that we have in machine learning. Let me go to the next one. And talking about natural language processing, we need to say that recently we're experiencing a big change when we interact with the applications that we have available right now. So behind the scenes, we need to say that the most recent trends in artificial intelligence to enhance the solutions applied to the medical field are based on Llama, GPT, Gemini, BART. All of these are large language models or applications developed based on large language models. But I need to say, as an expert on AI, that we need to focus on the data quality, not only on the models. So this is the new trend in artificial intelligence because we have very powerful large language models, but we have specific needs, specific tasks that we need to solve in medicine, and we need to focus on the data quality together with the application of the most powerful large language models that we have. And nowadays, we have the agentic AI. From my point of view, this is the near future in AI because this is a very good application of all the knowledge that we have right now to take advantage of the large language models and other algorithms in order to simulate the human behavior. This is the near future. Here in this diagram, in the right of this slide, we are we have the architecture of the transformer. Transformer is an architecture based on neural networks that is behind the scenes of Llama, GPT, Gemini, all the large language models and the new applications that we have available right now. So I will go into details to this architecture later on. Let me go to the next one. Okay, so talking about natural language processing and large language models to apply this knowledge or this um, models in the medical field, we have three options. The first one is prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is the approach that we are using when we use ChatGPT, BART, or something like that. Prompt engineering involves designing and refining input prompts to get the desired output from pre-trained model. So when we use ChatGPT, whatever version 2, 3, 4, 4.0, we are using a pre-trained large language model. That model was trained with a big collection of documents from different domains. And for that reason, we can get accurate responses, right? For many different questions. But talking about the medical field, sometimes it doesn't enough, right? We need to fine tune a model. What is fine tuning? Fine tuning is a technique where we can take advantage of all the knowledge that we have from a large language model, for example, BERT, GPT, Llama, Gemini, right? All of those. And we can take advantage of all that knowledge to solve, to tackle a specific task with our own data set. And we can have a small data set and we can train or fine tune those models in order to achieve good results for our nets, right? So fine tuning involves adjusting a pre-trained model by training it further on a specific data set, right? This approach helps in tailoring the model to a specific task or domain while leveraging existing knowledge. This is the most used approach recently in artificial intelligence, talking about natural language processing approaches in the medical field. And finally, we have the training from scratch. Yeah, this is the third approach that we have. But I need to say that this is the most resource intensive approach and is used when really highly customized model is required. But many of times we use the fine-tuning technique. Let me go to the next one. Okay. As a real world use case demonstration in this workshop, we have prepared the use case of fine-tuning for a sequence labeling task to identify drugs and their adverse effects. So to do this, we can use this tool set that we have here in the right of this slide. We used Google Colab. We recommend if you wanted to do this, the Google Collaboratory and use or get a subscription to get GPU infrastructure enough to train the models because we are talking about large language models, so many cases, and we need a GPU infrastructure, a big GPU infrastructure. And we use Python. We can use PyTorch, Pandas, NumPy, Spacey, Transformer, and Hugging Face have all of these libraries and programming languages can be used for free, right? Let me go to the next one. Right, here in this diagram, we are showing the whole process to carry out the fine-tuning of a model. In this case, we use the model, the large language model called BERT. So to do this, we have these steps. We can get an input text, and then we need to pre-process that text. Then we need to tokenize it, and then we need to get a representation in a vector space model with word embeddings using neural networks or using the architecture that we use in this case when we fine-tune a large language model. This is the transformer. Then after that, we have the sequence labeling, the aligning of each lexical unit with a label. And finally, we carry out a post-processing in order to delete double spaces on relevant non-content words, for example. It depends on the application that we are working on. And finally, we will get an outcome, right? In this case, we have a label for each word in the input text. So for this sequence labeling approach, we can use different approaches for the labels, right? In this case, we are using the BIO scheme. This is a well-known scheme for academic and for industry purposes. And O is the letter to represent the outside, the word outside. I is for inside, and B for begin, because we need to assign a label for each word in this case. So we are looking for drugs or medications mentioned, and we are looking for their adverse effects. So we call those entities, in this case, for this problem, and we assign a letter for each entity. So, for example, we can assign for Linus of Braille, we should assign the letter B, BD, because this is the begin of the drug. If we have more than one word for this drug, we need to assign the rest of the labels with the letter I, right? And same for the adverse effect. And the rest of the words in this sentence or in the input text will we assign with the letter O outside of the entities that we are looking for. Go to the next one, please. So to carry out this fine-tuning process, we need a data set. And we need a data set with labels because we are talking about supervised machine learning. This is the approach that we are using here. So we need a data set tagged or labeled for humans and validated before to train a machine learning models. In this case, we have this corpus, the ADE corpus. This is provided by this academic study for this academic work, and you can use it for testing. In this data set, we have different columns, but here the most important are the sentence, because this is a corpus, or this is a data set with multiple sentences. And we have the adverse effect in text in a separated column, and we have the drug in a separated column. But it is important to note here that we have the begin character and the end character for the entities that we are looking for. We have the begin character for the adverse effect, same for the end, and we have the begin and the end character for the drug. This is very important because we need a data set in this format or similar in order to pre-processing and to train a large language model or a machine learning model to tackle this task. Let me go to the next one. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have a pre-processing step here. We can use this data set. This is a simple TXT file. And when we are using Google Collaboratory, I can use the Google Drive environment, and we can connect the Google Collab notebook with the environment in Google Drive. And I just upload the data set, the file, to my drive, and then I can load the data set into the notebook, into the environment that I used to train our model. In this environment, I can write the code in Python, PyTorch, and all the libraries that I mentioned above. Then, with the data set in our notebook, we need to tokenize the data set. This is a very important part of this process. Tokenization is a process where I take an input text and I need to separate each lexical unit or each word in a Python list, right? So with the input text, I will have a Python list with each lexical unit or word in this Python list. And at the same time, I need to align this input text with an output text. The output text will be also a Python list with the same number of elements of the input, right? Because we need to align a label with each lexical unit. This is the approach to tackle a sequence labeling problem, right? And after that, we need to align all and we need to validate the tokenization process because we need to validate all the input text with this corresponding output variable, and we need to validate that each lexical unit have its corresponding label, right? And after that, we can pass to the model training for tokenization or for token classification, I'm sorry. To do this, we can use the transformers library and datasets library from PyTorch and from Hugging Face. We need to get an account in the Hugging Face platform. We can get it for free. And after that, we can get a token in order to carry out the authentication inside the notebook in the Google Collaboratory environment to connect our work, our notebook with the Hugging Face hub, because we will use that to deploy our model in the cloud, right? Using the Hugging Face platform. Then we can format our data set. This part of the process is really simple. We need to put all the data that we have in Python dictionaries. That's really simple. And we need to define, using Python, the labels that we will use. Remember that we are working with the BIO scheme, so we need to define this. And we need to assign an ID for each label that we are using. So in this case, we can use 0, 1, and 2 for the labels that we are using here. And after that, we can pass to this important part of the fine-tuning process. Look here. We can load a large language model from the Hugging Face hub. So other companies and other researchers can train a model using different data sets for different tasks, and they can upload their models to the Hugging Face hub. And then we can analyze them. yeah, analyze them and analyze the data set that they use to train their models, and we can use it, right? So in this case, we are using BERT. BERT is a well-known large language model which achieved the best results in all the tasks in natural language processing 2 or 3 years ago, and we can use it, right? So using the Hugging Face Hub and the Google Collaboratory, we can load this model with a one line of code in Python. This is the pre-trained model. After that, we need, because we are tackling different tasks with our small data set, in this case, to discover drugs or medications mentioned, their adverse effects, we need to define the metrics we are used to measure the model's performance. So in this case, we can adapt the precision, recall, F1, and accuracy to measure how is our model working, right? And after that, we can map the labels, as I mentioned, with their IDs. And this is the most relevant part in this fine-tuning process because we have a pre-trained model. In this case, we have BERT. Look at here. I'm showing just the left part of the transformer architecture here. This part is called the encoder part of the transformer. BERT is a large language model trained just with this part of the transformer, just using the encoder. GPT, for example, is trained using the other part, the right part of the transformer architecture, that is called the decoder part. So it is important to mention this. But this is a pre-trained large language model, but I'm tackling a different task with my own data set. I want to fine tune this model to solve my task, to tackle my task. So I can change the head of prediction in this architecture. So in this part, I can modify the model, the head part of the model, in order to tackle my own task using my own data set, but using all the knowledge that we have in BERT, that BERT have for different tasks and using a large collection of documents uh, used during the training process of BERT. So this is really a really good point here. After that, I need to carry out the hyperparameter definition or hyperparameter tuning because I need to find the best hyperparameter for the models in order to achieve the best metrics that I defined here in this step. And then I can run the fine-tuning process, and finally, using a simple line of code, I can deploy my model in the Hugging Face hub. Remember that we got an account in the Hugging Face platform, and with a line of code, I can deploy the endpoint in my account in Hugging Face. So I can use it later on to tackle another task or to use our model in an application that we are developing. Yeah, with a front end and a back end. Let me go to the next one. So after the process, when we have our model trained and deployed in the cloud, we can use it for prediction. We call the prediction phase the inference phase. And in this slide, I'm showing the inference and the post-processing phase of our problem. So look at here, we have a text, an input text written in natural language in English. And when we call our model, we will get this response, right? This is a list with a dictionary with dictionaries, and in each Python dictionary we have a word with the character when the entity starts and the end character for the entity. Remember that our entities are drugs or medications or the adverse effects. And look at here, we have special characters. This is because we are using BERT, and this is the reason because why we need to post-process this output. And after this post-processing, we can have this output clean, and then we can get this to show the outcome in our application in this way. This is the same output that you saw in the demonstration of our demo. So that's important. Let me go to the next one. And finally, as a conclusion, I need to say that it is clear that artificial intelligence is not the future. From our point of view, artificial intelligence is now in all industries, including healthcare. And the application that we show can be generalized for the automatic identification of any entity. For example, to identify diseases, treatments, and so on. This allows to improve many of the processes in healthcare by automating the reading and extraction of information from large amounts of clinical documents. And if we use generative AI, we can see that generative AI does great things, but it is still ongoing to achieve sometimes precision required in healthcare. So we need to focus on the quality of the data and the pre-processing and post-processing techniques in order to make a big difference in the results that we can achieve using AI in the healthcare industry. And also being aware of the limitations of AI helps to get better results and to apply it responsibly and effectively. And last but not least, artificial intelligence is not perfect, but it is very useful in healthcare for several applications. Go ahead, Steve.
All right, Antonio, thank you, and great job with that. Now, for everybody on the call, we need to have a test, and we need everybody to open up a Hugging Face account and do all of the coding and prompts that Antonio just went over. And I know with over 300 people on this webinar, we have a diverse audience. For those who program, you were probably drooling over the information that Antonio was giving on how to do it and how you've trained the models. If you're not a programmer, you're probably looking at it, scratching your head saying, what the heck was that? Our goal with this webinar was to not only talk from a business level, but to dive deep on the technical side. And we actually have a closer to 2 hour just live technical coding demo that Antonio does, that we do with clients, with our own engineers, while Antonio's doing everything live, coding specifically on it. And so we hope everyone enjoyed that. We know it's hard in a webinar format with a lot of diverse people, roles on the call, but great job going through that, Antonio. Appreciate it. And so question and answers, and feel free to put comments in the LinkedIn Live comment section, and we'll try to get to all the comments. Some key questions that we go through when we're talking with clients, and we have some clients that are not yet using AI or machine learning. We have some that are using it. So at the most basic level, if you're not using AI yet, we like to dive in. All right, and sometimes it seems fundamental, but what's the objective of your business? What do you do? How do you carry out your daily processes? And what really it comes down to is what kind of data do you have? Because as you guys heard Antonio go through, AI is only as good and can be trained to your specific data. So when it comes to your company and what you're doing, the data is truly the biggest part of it. And often when we're working with companies, we ask, is there a sample set of data that we can have specific to what you're trying to accomplish? And we offer for clients that go through our workshops that we will set up a free demo of training it just as Antonio was going through against your data. And sometimes the data is scrubbed. Sometimes it does contain confidential information where we're hosting it, the demo on your environment. We're signing NDAs and HIPAA business associate agreements if necessary. For companies that are already using AI or machine learning, we really start drilling into, once again, the data, and AI and data is everything. I actually read an interesting statistic, and just to think of AI in general, and ChatGPT is one of the biggest ones everybody knows, that by the end of next year, ChatGPT will have run out of data that it can analyze from the public web. And so OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, is focused on doing licensing agreements with universities, with publications where they're getting access to data that is not free, that is subscription-based type data, because the processing power, that's how much it eats data. So all public data on the internet by the end of next year will be consumed by models like ChatGPT. And this is why all those data centers are going up, and the compute power, and why NVIDIA stock continues to go through the roof, even after their 10-to-1 stock split that they just did. But so for companies that are already using AI, often they're using many off-the-shelf tools like the ones that Antonio was going through. And that's a big thing we want to understand is, what have you been using? And, getting a sample of the data. A big thing that anybody who's working on implementing generative AI into their environment is, how accurate is the output? And as Antonio touched upon, you have to constantly train these models. So, and Antonio, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't just train it once and you're done. You have to constantly train the model, giving it more data, more scenarios. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So these are some different processes. I do see a question that's come in, and I'm just going to read it out loud. And Antonio, this would be for you. Since LLMs are constantly evolving and changing, and given that you build an agent using, say, Llama, how easy is it to change or update your data and switch the LLM? Great question, Matt. Thank you for that question. Antonio, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, we can use our own data set in order to fine-tune large language models. Maybe the the most relevant aspect using Llama or GPT or Gemini is the cost of the infrastructure. Because if we are using Google Colab to fine-tune our models, Llama, for example, we need to get a really big GPU infrastructure. Maybe that's a problem. But if you have your own data, you can adapt all of these large language models to tackle a specific task and to achieve good results. But remember that the first step that we need to go through is the prompt engineering, because we have a powerful large language models right now, but sometimes we will need to fine-tune those models. But the answer is, we can do it, but sometimes depends on the volume of data that we have, or depends on the size of the large language models that we're using. We need more GPU, we need more resources.
So let me ask it a different way, Antonio. So if we are fine-tuning a model based off Llama, and a year later we decide ChatGPT is going to be a better LLM to base it off of, what of the fine-tuning that we did, how easy is it to switch out or add large language models as part of it? And I know the answer is probably it depends.
Yeah, it depends, but because when we are using the fine-tuning technique, we use only one large language model, right? And the answer in order to decide if is large is Llama or GPT better than the other, it depends on the method and it depends on the data and the tasks we are tackling.
Gotcha. And I know it's complex and there's a lot of variables to that. What about it? Another question here from Joe. And thanks for the question, Joe. How do we measure and ensure data quality when we're doing these models? What are your thoughts on that, Antonio?
How do we measure what? I'm sorry.
Measure and ensure data quality. So the output we're getting from these models.
That's a really good question. The data quality depends on the process that we carry out to build the data. It is very important. Remember that the best scenario is to validate or to build a data set for experts and for humans, right? That's the data quality that we need for a specific task. That's very important, specifically in the healthcare industry, because we need to achieve metrics near to the 100%. So the data quality is ensured when you use or when you work with a medical staff, for example, to validate the data carefully.
Are there tools? I mean, what, and I'm trying to think of our current clients, is the validation manual? Are there tools that can measure
Mhm.
the accuracy?
Yeah, absolutely. There are tools to facilitate the process, but if we want to ensure the data quality for this specific domain, we need to work in many cases manually. Mhm.
Gotcha. Excellent. Thanks for the question, Joe. We appreciate it. As and I want we want to be conscious of everyone's time, as appreciate the hundreds of people that jumped on this webinar. Our company, Sonatafy Technology, 65% of our clients are in the healthcare and life sciences industry. And we understand the space well, making sure we're being compliant, the uniqueness of the environments of the data sets. And that's a big part of what we do, although we do work with other industries as well. But 65% of our clients are in the healthcare and life sciences space. Um, as I mentioned earlier, we do offer that we will build out a custom demo for no charge for clients that go through our workshop. And a lot of questions we get around that are we kind of wanted to go through here. And first question is, how long does it typically take? And the golden answer to that is we usually can have a working model up in 2 to 3 weeks. The hardest part of it is we got to make sure we're capturing your data in the right format. And that's something that our team works with your team to make sure we're doing that. When we do a free demo environment of it, we're often asked, who owns the IP? Well, and we often use these free demos as a way for technology leaders to quantify projects to their board, to their other C-level executives, and be able to show a working model. And when we're doing that, and when we're doing it for free, Sonatafy does own the IP. But when we're doing paid solutions, the clients typically own it 100%. Um, Another question, and specific to healthcare and life sciences, is how do we ensure compliance with data? And we do NDAs and business associate agreements. We can host the demo environment in our AWS environment or directly in our client's environment. And that's something we work through. All of the data would be private. It's not a public large language model. It's created a contained environment specific to your data. And this is usually the first step we do to help companies down this journey of implementing this. And we have found by setting up these environments focused on solving one problem, which is how the demo environments that we showed you kind of came to light. These were challenges clients told us, and we put these models together for them to be able to justify the projects internally. And that we have found a lot of technology leaders really like it when and non-technical stakeholders need to be able to see it, especially when they don't understand the technology behind it and what it really takes. So Antonio and I and the entire Sonatafy technology team, we want to thank everybody for attending the workshop. Our goal was to provide some business and deep technical information. We very much welcome any and all feedback that anybody has. We're always looking to how to make these more effective, to get them better. If for attending this workshop, we offer a free 60-minute deep dive where we could talk specific about your environment, and we will come back and provide you with no charge of a free AI analysis and our suggested roadmap for your company to go down the AI journey. And as we talked about, we're willing to build out a free customized demo specific to your data and specific to a challenge you need to solve. And everybody who's attended also, we have a ebook available that covers this information as well. We look forward to your feedback. Thank you for attending this AI workshop, and everybody have a phenomenal day. Thank you.
Thank you. See you next time.